Hello, Rob Travels with Dottie here on a beautiful Friday morning in northern New Mexico in Eagle Nest. I'm at over 8,000 feet. There's a beautiful lake out there. And today, if you're over 65 and are thinking about hitting the road in an RV full time or part time, you're probably wondering if it's too late. I started my journey at 62. Now I'm 65, and I'm here to tell you exactly what I wish someone had told me before I started. So the first thing is we're going to myth bust the dream. Yeah, we're going to myth bust it. It's not always freedom and sunshine. Even if you watch my channel, I don't really have videos where I show myself sitting on the chair behind me staring at the TV screen with my remote trying to find something interesting to watch and not finding it, and it's raining outside and it's cold and I'm turning up the heat and eating when I'm not hungry. People don't want to see that stuff. They want to see the more interesting things. So that's what I do videos on. But it's not always freedom and sunshine. There are both physical and mental demands. I'll talk more about those later, but you'll also, from friends and family, you'll face some "you're too old" messaging from strangers and your own inner critic. While let them and yourself if necessary, it's doable, but it's a different experience after 65. Now, not only do I have my experience at 65, I have good friends in this lifestyle that are in their 70s that I spent quite a bit of time camping with, and I see them on a daily basis and I understand the struggles and how they use creativity and perseverance and resilience to overcome those things. So, what do I wish I knew? Physical realities. Getting on the roof isn't always an option. I can still do it, but I see from the experience, I can see how I feel like I'm taking more and more of a risk every time I climb up on my roof. And I do have friends that are a bit older than me that just say, I'm done. I can't do it. If something needs to be done on my roof, either a friend is going to do it or I'm going to have to hire someone to do it. The second thing, though, is really the big surprise to me that that I've developed a way around this, and I'll explain it to you. It's the setup and tear down takes more out of you than you'd think. This is especially an important thing if you're going to be the kind of nomad that likes to move frequently. I don't move frequently, but I have friends that they want to keep moving. They don't want to stay more than a week or two in a place. I stay for months. That's my personal preference, but it doesn't need to be your personal preference. Okay? It doesn't seem like how big a deal could it be? I put away some stuff, I pull in my slide, I back my truck up, I hook it up, I hook up the chains, and I drive off. Let me show you something. I have a checklist, and checklists for doing this are absolutely essential because if you miss one particular thing, you could have a disaster. So here's my trailer checklist. Can you see that? That's not all of it. Look, that's how many things I need to check every day. Every day. Every time I get ready to head out. All right. And the checklist heading out is far more important than a checklist landing or getting where you're going to go. Because what you're doing after you finish everything, you're getting in your truck, you're putting it in drive. And this is when disasters occur when you've forgotten something. And things I've forgotten, but I've gotten away with because I noticed quickly enough, are having the electrical still plugged in. You can just rip that thing right out. You can cause damage to whatever you're plugged into. There's all kinds of things. I've heard about people pulling away with their awning still out, their stairs still out, not properly hitched and locked up. There's all sorts of things that can happen that can cost you a lot of money, and from a minor inconvenience to a major disaster. That's a long list that I have. And it takes a long time. The longer I'm in a place, the more entrenched I get with things outdoors and things lying around inside. So here's my strategy. If I do it all at once, if I say, I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to drive, I'm going to take a 2 or 3 day trip, and I get up and I do all those things, the checklist in the morning, I do everything I need to do in the morning and then get in the truck and leave, that's disaster for me. Because by the time I do all this stuff and I get in the truck, I'm exhausted. And you don't want to be exhausted driving your RV, because it's different from just driving a car or just a truck. You need a level of vigilance that is substantially higher when you have all that mass and momentum and kinetic energy moving down the road. You need to be at your best and alert and not exhausted. Not to mention the fact you're even more exhausted when you get to your first destination and you don't have the energy to set up properly. There's workarounds for that too, but I'll get to that after I finish this. So what's my workaround? Because I only move a few times a year, this is probably more an exaggeration than you would have if you move more frequently. But I start a couple of days ahead of time. And I start putting things away and storing things that are on the outside of my rig that I know I can live without using for the next 2 days. For example, the first thing is taking my e-bike and folding it and stowing it and putting it in the back of my truck. Chairs, fold up chairs, put them in the back of the truck, my little side tables, anything that I can get done on the outside of the vehicle, I do. Then the night before I leave, that's when I hitch up. That's when I do the backing the truck up to it, putting on the hitch, putting on the chains, making sure that I'm doing it safely. I've got wheel chocks, I've got the emergency brake on, and I get it and I take up my stabilizers. So I'm going to sleep one night where it's not stable and it moves a little bit when I walk around. Frankly, I can't feel it. I've never noticed it. But I get everything ready and I start putting away things the day before inside the trailer that I either am not going to need at all, or I know where to go get it if I happen to need it. So by the time I wake up in the morning to go on my trip, most of this stuff is checked off. So the list becomes a lot shorter. I take a lot less effort in the morning. I'm hitched and I'm ready to go. I take down my Starlink, I put up the stairs, 2 or 3 other things, take out the chocks, check my lights, and I'm hitting the road, and I'm hitting the road refreshed. And the harder it is for me to do this job, the more time I give it. I might do it 1 day ahead of time, 2 days ahead of time, but I do it incrementally and I do it slowly. And this becomes even more important if the climate is especially hot or especially cold, or here's a good one, setting up at my destination. So my last trip, I went from Artesia, where my home base is, up to Eagle Nest. It took about 6-hour drive. The elevation went from about 3,400 to 8,300. Now, it wasn't hotter, it was cooler, but the air was thinner. And so I had the presence of mind. I've done this before. I don't fully set up. I did not fully set up. I unhitched, I put my stabilizers down. I put my wheel chocks on. I didn't take anything out of the back of the truck. And I just set up the very basics that first day. Then the next day, when I needed a chair, I went to the truck, I got the chair out, and I did things incrementally. When I felt like riding the bike, I went in, got the bike out of the truck. And it probably took 2 or 3 days. When I'm in Quartzsite, when I'm boondocking and I'm there from like the past few years, from early November until April, I've got a ton of stuff set up, solar panels, generators, all kinds of things set up outside my rig. And I will take a full 3 or 4 days to get fully set up, so I don't exhaust myself trying to get it all done in a short period of time. That's a lot of the physical realities. The other thing is, if you have maintenance to do that involves using strength, unless you do strength training after 65, you're going to have a noticeable reduction in physical muscle strength. And I find myself, I'm not a small guy. Look at me, I'm seem pretty robust. But there have been times where I'm like, I can't open it. I'm having a lot of trouble opening a jar that I knew in my younger days would just be, boom, it would be gone. I don't have the physical strength that I used to have. So you have to pay attention to things like, how big a generator do I get? And how much does it weigh? And do I have to lift it out of my truck and onto the ground and back again? With my generator, I discovered this past year when I had it in Quartzsite, I had to get help. There was no chance I was starting this year, was I going to take a risk of hurting my back by lifting probably a 70-pound generator up into the back of my truck when I can just ask somebody to grab an end and we pull it up. So you have to be willing to make those kinds of accommodations, or buy yourself a much smaller generator if you can get away with it. There are things that you can do. There are lifts that you can get that go on the back of a pickup truck. There's also, what I have is, when you put my tailgate down, you'll see something strange sitting on the tailgate. It's a ladder that folds open, and instead of jumping up onto my tailgate, which I do like that when I was 50, but now at 65, it's a struggle to get up there. I have a ladder that I use. So you may want to make ergonomic modifications to your rig, to your vehicle. And there are also things that can lift heavy objects into the back of your pickup truck if you don't like asking people for help. I think those are pretty expensive and complicated. I don't know much about them, but they definitely exist. Let's see. There's emotional and mental adjustments that you need to make. In a lot of ways, loneliness can hit you harder as you're older. Friends, especially if you pick this lifestyle, friends that you had in the before Nomad life become less accessible because they're not around you. And especially, and this isn't practical experience or personal experience, but I'm pretty empathic. I can imagine how hard it is to leave children and grandchildren, especially if you're used to being in the same town or same city or same area, and leaving them for extended period of times. You'll miss them and maybe feel some guilt as well. And that's something that we each deal with in the light of our own um, circumstances. So loneliness it happens to me sometimes. I do spending a lot of time alone, but I can get lonely. So I have strategies to ensure that I'm not lonely. I don't do boondocking out by myself somewhere. Some people do. Some people thrive in it, right? I don't. I need to be a part of a community. Now, I may be technically boondocking now, not really, because there's an electrical cord that goes out to me, and I'm in an RV park, but not. So the reality is, what you're seeing out here is um, I'm in a like a 1 acre plot next to an RV park, and the woman that owns the RV park graciously makes an exception. So don't be calling her and asking her if you can do what I do. Some people have done that. It's uncomfortable for her. She's made an exception for me out of the kindness of her heart, and I appreciate that. And I I help her out around the things that I can. I had a point here, didn't I? Oh, I was trying to say that um, I'm still part of the community of the RV park. I can walk over there and engage people in conversations and sit with them around fires and participate in potlucks. So I feel part of community versus if I was boondocking up on the side of a mountain someplace, I don't think I'd like that very much. That doesn't mean that you wouldn't. I'm just talking about me and the things that can cause loneliness in me. And even here, it wasn't quite enough. So one of the things I did is I now volunteer once a week. I go and I open the visitor center and museum here in Eagle Nest on Saturdays. And I get to talk to a lot of people, and I get a pretty good fill of socializing, and it really energizes me. So if you're in the area, if you're in Eagle Nest, New Mexico in the summer, come to the sweet spot for me to know that I'm definitely going to be there would be like for certain noon to 3, because I may start, it's about a 6 hour shift. I could start as early as 9 o'clock and work to 3, or I can start as late as 12 and work till 6. But the overlap there is noon to 3. So if you want to meet me and you want to meet Dottie, Dottie goes to work with me, come on by there and be sure to make a donation if you can afford it, because it's a nonprofit. Everyone's a volunteer, and they can use the extra funding. But it's a fascinating place. You'll get to meet me and Dottie, but more important, you get to view an amazing little local museum. The thing that gives me strength too, emotionally, is there's some pride in doing something most people don't dare to do at our age. And we do it. We do it at 65. We do it at 70. And I know people in their 80s still continuing to do it. Now, they all talk about the adjustments that they make. One of my favorites is Pup Camper 58. That's her YouTube channel. That's Cheryl. For those of you, she's the one that got me through my hip surgery. She was a nurse in the Vietnam War, and she has all sorts of experience, and one of the kindest, gentlest people I know. She has 2 knee replacements, and every once in a while they'll stiffen up on her, and I have this vision of seeing her standing in the bed of her pickup truck, because she hauls around a trailer just like me and has generators, and she moves stuff in and out of there, and I've seen her reach down and straighten out both her knees and just keep going. She's in her 70s, and she has no sign of slowing down. As a matter of fact, she just told me she took a camp hosting job that's going to start any day now, and she's going to do it through the winter. Camp hosting in her 70s. Pretty impressive. So you can do it. The other thing is technology, having to rely more on technology on the road, and learning how to troubleshoot stuff on your own. So if you're in an apartment or a house and you have internet, you can just call somebody up and say, I want internet installed, and they set it up, right? And everything's done easily. And if there's a problem, you call them up and say, my internet's not working, and they come out and fix it. It doesn't work that way when you live in an RV and you're traveling everywhere. Understanding the options for like internet access, how much it costs, and how to set it up on your own, how to troubleshoot it and solve problems on your own takes some, you got to break into some new stuff. You think, I thought I was done learning new stuff like this, but you're not. But hey, you can do it at your own pace. It's like there's nobody that's going to be out there standing over you, wagging a finger and scolding you for not doing it fast enough. You do it at your own pace and develop friendships with people that have expertise. I have people that have expertise in like mechanical and electrical stuff. And when I have those problems, I go to them. A lot of people come to me with their technical stuff. I worked for Dell for a while. I've built my own PCs. I'm, but I'm a little bit of a nerd if you haven't figured that out. So, financial curveballs. Oh, yeah. Financial curveballs are a thing. Having unexpected expenses on a fixed income is not fun. And most of us are going to be on a fixed income. What does that mean? I've got Social Security that I get every month, and I have two. This is going to sound boastful. I have two pensions. They're tiny pensions, they're small pensions. One was from working at a place for 7 years and getting vested, and another was working for 5 years and getting vested. So you can imagine. You add all that together, that's my fixed income. You can have unexpected repair costs that can be scary. So, how do I deal with that? Here's what I do. There's a reason I have what they call a bumper pull trailer, because the thing that maybe will give me the most headache might be the engine and drivetrain. And it's a Ford F-150. It can be serviced anywhere in the country. And worst case, if I have a catastrophic failure, I can afford to replace the whole thing. So what's left is the trailer that doesn't have an engine in it, but it has several discrete appliances. There's an air conditioner, there's a refrigerator, there's a hot water heater, right? Those are three big things. If I just had to replace the refrigerator that runs on propane and electric, that could be a couple $1,000s. I do have the option of replacing it because I have a robust electrical system with a 12-volt refrigerator for far less money, for less than half that. If I need to replace the AC, I'll need help installing it. I'll need someone to install it. So we're talking about $1,600, $1,700 if that should fail and not be repairable. And believe me, the refrigerator too possibly could be repairable. Hot water heater, a few $100s. I could probably install that myself. There's I didn't even mention, there's an onboard furnace. Now, I think about all these things failed. I can add up those dollars and say, this is my maximum exposure. And trust me, many of these things aren't going to fail at all. I know people that have 35-year-old rigs that have the original refrigerator, the original hot water heater, etc. Conversely, I have people with brand new rigs that have to replace these things. So there's no rhyme or reason. But the chances of everything going out at once are almost zero. So I have in my mind what potentially could go wrong. So if it goes wrong, it's not really an unexpected repair shock. It's like something's going to happen and I'm going to have to repair something. It's not fun, but if I expect it, if I got to find a way to live without AC, it's got wheels. I can move up in elevation. I can go up further north. There's lots of things I can do maybe to mitigate that. Or I can live like I used to live when I grew up in upstate New York. We didn't have air conditioning. We didn't even have window air conditioners. We had open windows and fans, and we survived. Wow. Imagine that. I can lose my fridge, and I can survive on a big ice chest. That's the cheapest way, with going to town and getting ice and keeping it cold, or getting an electric one that's only less than $200. I can make do. I can, you can actually, hot water here, you can take a cold shower. You can. It sucks, but you can. So I can survive with these things dropping out, and maybe finding some extra work if I don't have enough in savings, finding some part-time work or something. I can make it work. The cost of fuel, maintenance, and campgrounds keeps rising. There's no doubt about that, especially campground fees have been going crazy. I don't spend a lot of time in campgrounds unless, like, I have this special arrangement here. I basically own my own place down in Artesia. And when I'm in Quartzsite, for the first time, I'm going to be staying in an RV park, and it's going to cost about $1,200 plus electric for 3 months. So that's not too bad. But so I have strategies to keep those prices down. So I'm not going into 5-star RV resort places that are $75, $80, $90, or even $100 a day. I just avoid those places. And the cost of fuel, I can't control how much a gallon of gas is. I can control how many gallons I use by how often I move. If you're moving every 2 weeks and traveling, and you're getting nailed with fuel costs, then extend your stays and have less trips during the year. And you can do that. And maintenance, there's not enough room in this video for me to talk about the things that you can do about maintenance, but there is a learning curve to be able to understand how to do certain things yourself, so you don't have to pay someone else to do it, so it's a lot less. It absolutely can be far less expensive than a fixed home residence if you know all the tips and tricks. I spend far less on a monthly basis to live than I ever have in my life. So you're going to leave your home, and how are you going to make friends? And it may be easier than you expect, but it requires being a little vulnerable and starting conversations at the ripe old age of 65, which isn't second nature for everyone. I'll tell you something funny. I had a viewer, when I did a video in the museum in my volunteer job, the viewer said, "What a great thing for you to do, enjoyable thing to do as an extrovert." That's interesting, because people that do come into the museum experience me that way, and you experience me that way by looking at your TV or your phone or whatever you're watching my videos on. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. Say what? I am. Extroversion and introversion are often misunderstood. It has to do with what what you're most comfortable with, in the environments you're the most comfortable with is where you recharge your batteries and get psychological and emotional energy from. And what I'm most comfortable with is being alone. Yeah, that's where I'm most comfortable. When I go out into the world, like I go to the museum, it's an effort for me. It's a conscious effort to put myself out there. When I do a video, it's a conscious effort to appear outgoing, be positive. I think positive thoughts, and I try to get that through in my voice and in my words. And it drains energy from me when I do that. And to recharge after the camera goes off, I sit in my lazy boy, I flip through YouTube, I I look at stuff on my phone, I relax and I'm alone. And the batteries slowly recharge and I'm ready to go back out there again or make a new video or go out onto the RV park and strike up conversations. Extroverts draw energy from interactions from people. That's where they're the most comfortable. And if they want to recharge their batteries, they go out to clubs, they have social interactions, they're around people, and it gives them energy. When they're alone, it's not, they can do it, but it's not their comfort zone. They get lonely, they desire that human connection, and the batteries slowly drain. And when they drain to a certain level, they go, I got to get out of here. I got to go talk to somebody. And they go out, they engage with people, and they recharge their batteries. A really good example of this misunderstanding is, if you guys know Adam the Woo, I love Adam. And I think I need to, because I'm subscribed to it, I don't absolutely know the name of his channel. It changed at some point. It's, let me type in Adam the Woo and it'll give you the name of his channel. It's the Daily Woo, WOO. TheDailywoo. He's got 750,000 subscribers. He does it like me. He does a video every single day. If you're into Disney and you're into traveling, you'll love him. But I'm not that into Disney, but I love listening to him. And my favorite, he has a home base in Orlando, Florida, outside Orlando. And my favorite videos of him is when he's got his little golf cart and he's traveling around his neighborhood and going to the grocery store and things like that. But he travels all over the world, in the United States. He's big into Disney, and you watch him, they go, what an outgoing, and you would think, what an extrovert. He totally isn't. He talks about this. He goes, this is not who I really am. People approach him all the time because he's famous. And he says, I'm okay with the initial interaction where, hey, I want to take a selfie. I watch you all the time. When it gets beyond those first few words, he's totally at a loss and is very uncomfortable. And he's most comfortable. You'll see him do videos with one other person. And that's where it's a friend of his many friends that he does videos with. And sometimes you'll see him in a larger group, but he says, I'm the most comfortable either alone or with just one other person. And if he did tell you that, you'd never know it. Back to making new friends. You just have to be willing to, if it's been uncomfortable for you to strike up conversations with strangers, all I can say is force yourself to do it. And if you force yourself to do it long enough, it becomes far easier to do. And you will make friends. The payoff, though, to this lifestyle, the thing that makes it amazing, is you're regaining purpose. And some people say you regain your agency in retirement. I have something to do every day living on the road in an RV. Like I could think of today, I've been putting off replacing the rails on a drawer, my pot and pan drawer. I've been putting that off forever. There are things that I need to replace and upgrade. There's always a little project to do. I feel more alive and present with nature, movement, and change. I go from mountain environments to desert environments, lakes, streams, and I change my location at least 3 or 4 times, if not 5 times a year. The change in the movement keeps things fresh and exciting, and it keeps me fresh and excited. And I've got a lot of pride in choosing a path that most people really don't do and maybe wish they did or wish they tried. And having Dottie and George on the road with me is it's wonderful. That's a thing to stave off loneliness. As a dog, Dottie's my hero dog, my best friend, puppy dog. George, I love George, but George is not a companion like a dog, like a dog is. And whereas Dottie's sleeping in her bed, and George is behind me on the floor sleeping. I love my cat George, but George is not a dog, that's for sure. So I'll leave you with this. If this lifestyle is calling you, don't let your age or your physical limitations be the reason you don't try it. There are workarounds for almost everything. There's a version of this life that will work for you. And it doesn't have to look like mine or anybody else's. All it has to look like is your vision. You can do this. Start small. Rent an RV. Use a tent. Go out for a weekend. Buy an old rig. Whatever lowers the bar to your entry to this lifestyle, do that thing. Right? You can spend $1 million on a rig. You can spend $2,000 on a rig. And trust me, I know people at both ends of the spectrum, and the amount of money that they paid for what they're living in bears no relation to their level of happiness in this lifestyle. I can guarantee you that. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one.